everybody. Welcome to this episode of Real to Real Talk. It is time once again to talk all things movies. I am Sergio Barrera, and joining me as always is my partner in crime and all things movies, Paul Britton. Paul, welcome to this week's episode. We're going to get scary.
Yeah, I know. It's super scary. And yeah, I mean, really scary.
Yeah. Well, we're going to just get right to it. This week, we are once again doing Netflix Roulette. It feels like it's been a while. We've had some things going on.
Yeah, well, we don't have a regular cadence on these things anymore. Like we used to try to do it like the first of the month or something, and now it's just kind of like, well, we don't really have anything major to do, so let's go ahead and throw it in. It's been probably 3 months, I would say.
Yeah, it's been a bit. I don't know that it's been that long, but it sure feels that way. But we decided, because of one of the the movie we'll talk about later, we thought, you know what, horror genre. It's been a while since we've done that on Netflix Roulette. If you go on over let's try that again, over to realgood.com and just put /roulette, you can use their Real Good Netflix Roulette and really any streaming company roulette. Pop in your streaming service of choice, hit spin, and it will suggest a movie for you. And these have always been fun to do, Paul. We chose the horror genre, and I got to tell you, wow, mine was a doozy.
Really interesting. Good. I'm glad that one of us got something that was a doozy.
I sense perhaps you might have been disappointed.
I don't know if we want to do this now or later, but with roulette, there's really 3 ways it goes. It either goes really bad, okay, really interesting, sometimes good, but not necessarily always good, but like interesting, like, you know, it's interesting, maybe not something I would want to watch again, but still interesting.
Right.
And then there's the ones that are just kind of like, nah, it was a movie. I watched it and I will forget that I ever watched it again. And I don't mind when they're bad. I love it when they're interesting, but when you get the middle road one, it's tough. It's tough because it's like, all right. And I that's where I ended up. I ended up in the middle of the road guy.
I can think of one time, it was a documentary. We did a documentary one a year ago now. And I think that's the first and only time I was like, I really like my movie. Otherwise, it's been, so we did a thing.
Yes, it is very frequently said. Yeah, so we did a thing.
Yeah.
I still can't believe I got Y Tu Mamá También. I will never get over that. Like that was just like, I feel like we.
Well, I feel like if I do get a great title, I've seen it. So it's
okay.
You know.
That's true. I have gotten some really good movies that I have seen before on there. So that's true. I feel like one of these times we should do a roulette where like it's just like we keep spinning until we get something that seems interesting to us. And we actually like keep track of how many times we have to spin it before we get something.
That'd be awesome.
No genres or anything. Just like, all right, this is the wild card one. Just keep spinning until you get something you'd actually want to watch.
And that's now 3 hours long. So I think we should do that next time around. I'd be down for that.
Cool.
So it is Netflix Roulette, as we said, off of realgood.com. We went the route of horror this time around. Paul, if you don't mind, I would like to begin.
Sure.
Just because I have been waiting to talk about this movie that I got because it was interesting. It was a movie out of Spain, called Dos, meaning two, the number two. I know you know that, but so again, the genre is horror, and we've talked often in the past on this show, Paul, that I'm not the biggest fan of horror films. I'm not big on jump scares, and but I'll play along, and I thought, okay, well, here we go. The blurb for the movie when it came up was enough for me to go, okay, let's see how they play this out. Because the blurb basically stated that this movie was about 2 individuals who woke up and find themselves sewn together.
Oh,
yeah. Exactly.
What?
Yes, absolutely. Movie, like I said, is out of Spain, and the film itself, I was in this point where I was like, oh, I've got to get my movie done. So it was like I think Saturday or Sunday, and I spun the wheel, grabbed the title, and was like, okay, cool. Netflix found it, and off I went. And it was really fast, like really fast. Like this movie, I wasn't. It ended, and I was like, huh, that was it. Turns out the movie was 71 minutes long,
Right.
but I know we've had a rule in the past, but I thought, no, there's so much to talk about and unpack here that I'm okay with the length of the film because the
And I
premise.
believe our cap was like either 45 minutes or an hour. So
Oh,
like
was it? Oh, well,
you're
then I feel
yeah.
okay. I thought for some reason I thought 90 minutes.
Nope.
Uh,
Definitely not.
but yeah, so then this definitely qualifies, and I was excited to talk about it because of its weirdness. And the blurb itself was one that, again, two people wake up, they're sewn together. I thought, all right, well, let's see where this goes. That sounds horrifying in and of itself.
Yeah.
Um, so the film begins, and this movie is carried by two actors. The entire film, until a certain point, is only these two um, individuals, a man and a woman. The movie opens with a shot of an eye opening as if from sleep, and within moments, it gets started right away.
Oh
You
wow.
find that it is a man and a woman who have been sewn together by someone, we know not who, and they are both nude. And so, like, okay, there's going to be some interesting dynamics here as to how will you carry this concept for the entirety of the film? Because of course, the mystery is why are they here? Who has done this, right? And I will tell you that for the first 30, 35 minutes of the movie, about half the movie, it is really compelling stuff. Like
Okay.
everything from the them discovering what's occurred to them, and they take a long time to figure it out. Meaning, not that, I mean, they realize they're attached somehow, right? But there's a slow build of tension as you can tell, like they don't really want to look and see the extent to which this attachment is, right?
Yeah.
And it was great because the tension build of this discovery that takes the first 10 minutes of the movie before they're like, oh yeah, we're really sewn together, like this is bad. Then it moves into, okay, we've got to move around this room and figure out what is this space we're in. You know, we see a phone, we got to walk across to it, see if we can call someone. Oh, what's outside the windows? So there's this great sort of like psychological ballet between these two characters and the audience member who's watching, who's like, what in the hell is going on here, right? As they try to figure out, who are they, who are you, why am I attached to you, what is going on, you did this to me. I mean, it's just really crazy
Oh, there's a
stuff.
lot of that. Like they accuse
Yeah,
each
oh,
other
yeah,
of doing it. Oh, okay.
exactly. And they're like, well, why would I do this? Like they don't know each other at all, right?
Eey.
It is wonderful tension building stuff. It then becomes at the midpoint a little bit overdone. Like, okay, we've been down this, we get it. You don't know what's happening. You don't know who would do this to you. The woman is, it must be my overly jealous, much older than me husband who is always accusing me of cheating. And the man is like, well, it must be some person's revenge because you find out he's a gigolo. And so, there's this constant, like, he's under the suspicion of so many, husbands, right? And
Okay.
so, it becomes a bit bogged down in the middle. And because, I am me and I'm evil sometimes, I need to give you the resolution
Okay.
because only then does it explain the dooziness of this movie. Because for about 45 to 50 minutes of this 70-minute runtime, you're at least in enough to be curious to see where this is going.
Okay.
And they have you, yes, they have you built to the point where you're like, it's the husband. It has to be the husband, right? And throughout the entire movie, there's all these allusions to the number two. There's pairs of everything in the room, same painting, same this, same that, knickknacks, so forth and so on. And then all of a sudden, they realize they're being watched. Okay, and this is where it enters the realm of like, what the? Because as they realize they're being watched, they realize it, and this is the only weirdness of it all, is every so often they fall into a kiss. and it like totally like unexplained. Maybe the tension of the moment, you might, and every time they kiss, the lights go out. And so they finally make this realization of like, ooh, well, like this, whoever's watching doesn't want us kissing. Must be the husband, right? So they decide to push it even further, and they're like, okay, well, let's really just jump into this, and like, let's see if we can draw them out. And so it gets a little heavy for about 30 seconds. It's very uncomfortable, and you're like, oh, okay, because they're still attached. What's going on here? And the light turns on, and the person who did this to them appears and tells them that they can't kiss each other because they're brother and sister. And because the culprit is their recently released from a mental institution father, who was the father of two conjoined twins. And they were separated at birth, these two individuals, and he's brought them back together to reunite the family. And he's reattached them back together. And you're like, I really wanted this to be the jealous husband. Like this.
I wanted this to make sense.
Right. It careened off the cliff, and you're like, what? and then the director just goes nuts on the symbology and symbolism of the two. And I mean, yeah, you're like, what? And then with it, and again, this is a 70-minute movie. This happens at about minute 50. There's some exposition, and then all of a sudden, a gun comes into play, and before you know it, they're all dead. And yeah, so
they're all dead.
They're all dead. Yeah, because the father goes to, he's trying to get them. I forget what even the situation was, but a gun became involved. It went off and shot the son, who then shot the father. So now they two are bleeding out. And they had earlier, like the man and woman had separated themselves, so they're both bleeding profusely. She walks out into the snow, collapses, and she's on her way to get help, obviously, but doesn't make it. So you're left thinking everyone has died because of the way the way the director puts that. And the part that just gets, you're like, okay, whatever, is as the camera peels back, she's outside in the snow. Her brother is dying on the floor inside the building they were in. This yin and yang symbol superimposes itself over them as the camera pulls back, and you're like, all right, just done.
That's the religious that's the religious symbology that I hate, right? Like, it's just, here's a Jesus figure, and
well, and I don't even know that it was to that level. It was just one of those things where they're like trying to make so much of the number two.
Yeah,
in terms
the yin
of
and
the
yang,
symbolism,
obviously.
And it's like, no,
you don't need to do that.
No, it was
good enough.
Yeah.
We know what you're going for.
Yeah, it was good for a bit, and then
that's disappointing. It almost was good. And here's the thing. Here's the interesting thing is, if I had gotten that in the next roulette where we just keep spinning until we get it, I probably would have watched that. Like that, I would have stopped on that one. I'd be like, okay, yes, let's give this a go, because this is weird.
Intrigued. I really was. And from a horror standpoint, it's mostly about, it's more like psychological horror, and of course gore eventually as they, separate themselves and so forth and so on. But yeah, the tension that these two actors, build. And I don't know how it was filmed in terms of blocking and such. There were points where you're like, are they attached? But it really wasn't enough to distract you from the story, because these two actors were just phenomenal in what they're playing out. But they're playing with a very limited space, obviously, making the most of it with their words and their inflection. So again, I was really in, and I was like, oh, this is cool. But
did
then
they
the
at least
happened? I was like, eh.
Did they at least at some point like establish, oh, we have the same birthday, like to give a hint as to what's coming?
Very, very late in the mix of things, the birth date did come up.
Okay,
but it was almost like,
I think,
if I remember completely, it was after the father was revealed, or very soon. It was to a point where by the time it happened, you're like, I kind of think I knew this, but I didn't want to know this. Like, I didn't want to believe that this is what it would be.
I feel like that's something you reveal in like the first like 15 minutes. Like
Right. It was
after
much
the
later.
initial
And
shock.
but it's because she, in the beginning of the movie, I'm glad you said it, she lies about her age.
Oh.
You find out that she
Well,
lies about her age. And so,
yeah, you don't need to do that. Like
yeah,
that clouds the thing. Like you got to give people at least a chance to know what the hell's going on and make sense.
right.
I feel like in
Yeah,
a situation like that.
they basically figure it out by starting to do the math on like who put us here, who got us here, who is this person in this picture, why are they familiar to us, that kind of thing. So, like I said, there was some interesting interplay. There was some good writing, but then
Bad payoff.
bad
Bad payoff.
very bad payoff, especially because the the character that plays the father had disguised himself as her husband, but it was the funniest looking. It was like poorly done.
Oh,
It was
really?
like, wow, how did you get fooled by this guy? So, yeah, it was.
All right. All right. Well,
so there you go.
Okay. From your 110 minutes, we double that and go to
Double.
we go to 220 minutes of ghost stories.
Oh my.
Yes. So actually 224 minutes. So no 224 minutes. 2 hours and 24 minutes. So yours was 1 hour and 10 minutes. Mine is 2 hours and 24 minutes. And I did not get the benefit of this is what your movie's about. It's basically the descriptor is, hey, these people that made this thing called Lust Stories have also made these 4 short films called Ghost Stories. So it's basically it's 4 short films out of India. It is a Netflix production. I don't know. I'm just gonna say this is the second time we've done horror, and both of my horrors have been international. And I think you need I think that you for horror to work, to really be scary, to really be effective, much like humor, you can't stray too far. You know, like there are sensibilities that we have in the United States that the sensibilities in India are going to be a little different. They're something that happens might be a little more scary, titillating, whatever in India, that in the United States is just kind of like okay. And really that's what so that's what you end up with. You end up with four short stories that are like okay. So the thing is that each one of them had like little things that were like, oh, that's really good. I like what they're doing there. And it's like, explore that. Like first of all, they don't need to be a half hour each. Definitely. These definitely, each one of them 15 minutes in and out. Yeah. You would have been good, but they were a half hour each. So that's okay. Whatever. The 4 stories is, one, there's a caretaker and an old woman, and the old woman is clearly there's something wrong in her head, and but also she might also be like have some kind of metaphysical thing going on with her. It's a little weird. The second story is there's a nanny, and the kid that she's watching becomes a little too obsessed with her especially when she turns out she's pregnant with her husband. And so the kid becomes super jealous. The third story was a newlywed a couple that is having an arranged marriage. Okay. So like very traditional thing in India, whatever. And it turns out like that the guy has a very creepy a connection and obsession with his deceased grandmother, and like and so she's still very much in the picture. To levels. This was the worst of the 4 because there was nothing in this one that worked because it was really fucking creepy. And then the creepiness wasn't like, oh, this is creepy, scary. The creepiness was like, this guy just like, no, like you stop. You don't go through with the marriage when it gets to the point of good night, Granny, and there's nobody in the room. Like good night, And then the fourth story was was probably the best one. There's a guy is sent to a village by like he's it's really they don't really establish too clear what he's doing. He was sent there to do or by whom, maybe a government agency, whatever. But he's sent to a village and there's only 2 kids to find out what's going on, and it turns out there's only 2 kids left alive in the village. And one of the kids, the girl, says that her father's been eating everybody, and so it unpacks from there. You know, and it basically becomes a monster story, which you know, monster stories are effective or not effective all over, you know, and it just depends on your mileage on monster story. So we're gonna go through all 4 of them. The first one, they didn't explore, like I really wish they had leaned very, very heavy into the metaphysical like aspects of the insane woman that can't walk that the caretaker was taking care of, because it was momentarily creepy and then it never came up again, and then all of a sudden she was dead and it was just like, okay, let me bring up spoiler alert. Okay, good. I'm going to be spoiling all of these because so like, again, it just was an unrealized creepy aspect that they went away from it, and it was like, oh no, stick with that. The second one, I'm telling you, they got the perfect kid to be the creepy Damien child. Like the kid was doing a fantastic job, and this story, like I would say it was like 10 minutes in, and I was like, this is really good. Like the kid had like these powers where he would like draw his nanny, and then like he put the you know, they showed her pregnant, and like he would scratch on on her belly, and like she would, you know, double over in pain and have pain from the getting her belly scratched out and stuff. And like that's where you go. But instead they went left and had the baby turn out to be a bird baby, and the mother turned into a bird mother. The caretaker turned into a bird mother, and they do a flashback to when she was a baby, and she accidentally dropped an egg out of a nest, and her mom told her, now you're never gonna. And it's like, why are we doing this? We don't need the bird mother. Like we didn't need the bird mother at all. It didn't have to go there. Like it definitely went weird, and it didn't have to go weird. Just have the creepy kid. And the creepy kid was really fucking creepy, and the bird thing just ruined the whole, like literally just takes you completely out of it. Creepy grandmother thing, that's never gonna work for me. Like it was a straight up ghost story, just straight up ghost story, and like it turned out like the whole house was obsessed with the grandmother, and like the grandmother doesn't let anybody else come into the house, and anybody that they bring into the house she has to take for herself, and like traps them in her little spirit realm thing, whatever, who cares. But the monster story was good. So you know, and it turns out like you find out that like the guy's not eating everybody. He's some other people have kind of like became his acolytes almost, and like and like it's sort of like werewolves crossed with vampires type of thing, and it's like if you and like so one of the kids is like if you the people eaters don't eat other people eaters, they only eat people. And so like this one I almost don't want to spoil the end of, but I'm going to. So like it turns out like one of the kids actually, in order to get out, does become a people eater, and like they all eat the guy that showed up. And it was just like, it was like, oh no, kid, don't turn into a people eater. But yeah, it was okay. It was a solid 30-minute monster story. The monster design was meh, you know, but the story itself was pretty good. I did enjoy watching a little kid turn into start eating his friend. That was good. So yeah, but ultimately this is my problem. It's just like yours is a really good example of when it goes right, because it's just like it's really weird. Like, why are what's going on? What why are people and then it's like, okay, well they didn't stick the landing, and that's okay. But it was just like it was just a constant level of like, oh, that's a little scary, and then so
That's funny.
yeah.
All right. Well, I think if I had to give this round of Netflix Roulette a taco rating, I'd say solid 3.
Okay,
Maybe
I'm giving
2.5.
mine 2
Yeah.
because it gets 2. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. I think 3 is generous, but
yeah,
I mean, if there's one thing I love about Netflix Roulette is it definitely more often than not takes us out of our I don't know if I want to call it a comfort zone, but it it
it,
it definitely opens our eyes to things we didn't know were out there. So
yes,
I mean, except in the case of Eat the Mama También.
yeah.
So
That was
that's
the
just
high
about
water
getting
mark,
around to it.
and it was the first ever. Or it might have been the second one. It might not have been the first one. First or
It
second
was
one.
early on, yeah.
Yeah, it was very early on. It was.
Absolutely.
I got it under comedy, and
Yeah.
I still to this day wonder. Like, the first hour has a couple of funny moments, but man, that is not a comedy.
Yeah, no. That's the beauty of Netflix Roulette. So make sure you go on over to realgood.com/roulette. Check it out. Make sure you give it a try. If you yourself can't decide what to watch, let the wheels spin for you. All right. Well, we're going to spin right along and remind you can find us on social media. Just drop by Facebook, look up the name of the show, Real to Real Talk. You'll find our Facebook page. You can catch our recorded episodes there if you choose. We are on Instagram as well at Real to Real Talk, where you can see all of our show posters and know what we've talked about throughout the history of this show. And on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and the notification bell so that you know when our episodes land in case you can't catch us live Tuesdays, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. And of course, we thank you all for joining us. With that, we will now move into one of my favorite segments that always is interesting, and that's going to be what we like to call What the Hell Did I Just Watch? So, Paul, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes. Okay. So I'm not going to reveal the title just yet. I'm going to read. First of all, I'm going to start by saying this movie is available on HBO Max through the end of the month. So you have a whole week to go and watch it. Whether or not I actually recommend you to do so, we will find out by the end. But here I'm going to read you the description of the movie first. A homicidal car tire, discovering it has destructive psionic power, sets its sights on a desert town once a mysterious woman becomes obsession. The movie I'm speaking of is 2010's Rubber. This has been on the What the Hell Did I Just Watch since the dawn of time. Like, this is on the stone tablet of notes of what movies would qualify for this. And I've known about this movie for ever and ever. And at no point did I ever think, I actually want to watch that movie. And just because it just seems bonkers. Like it just seems like, what is, are you kidding me? Somebody made a movie about this. And I'm here to tell you that this movie is indeed bonkers. And yes, somebody did indeed make a movie about it. And not only did they make a movie about it, they made a fucking fantastic movie about it. This movie is, yes, this movie is one of the funniest movies I have ever seen in my entire life.
Wow.
This movie is absolutely drop dead funny. Just completely insane funny and intentionally funny, but plays off as being unintentional. It is the very perfection of absurdist cinema. If you've ever wondered, well, Paul, I'm new to absurdist cinema, why don't you introduce me to something? I would say, okay, you want to watch a movie that's absurdist cinema? Go watch Rubber, because it's fucking hilarious and amazing and awesome, and you need to watch it because it's the perfect example of absurdist cinema. Now, I will preface by saying that if you don't have any appreciation for Monty Python whatsoever, like if you watch Monty Python and hate it, this is not for you. Like, if you hate Monty Python, Rubber is not for you, because this is 100%. The whole movie is just an extended Monty Python sketch that intertwines like 3 other Monty Python sketches, and it's just what's that?
Is
Intentionally.
all of this
No,
intentional?
Yes, I'm 100%
Oh.
intentional. It's got 3 different things going on at once.
Okay.
That are all interconnected and related, but for absolutely no reason. Okay. Gotcha. I'll give you I'm going to reveal as little as I can because I definitely want everybody to watch this movie. But
gotcha.
So one of the aspects of this movie is, well, first of all, you get to watch the tire become sentient and figure out it has powers, which is just like no talking, but absolutely riveting. And I know you don't like WALL-E because there's no talking. Just get over it. Yes, you have a movie and do things with the talking. It's okay. And then after you kind of see this sort of thing happen, it's been a couple weeks since I watched it. I got to remember what. It doesn't matter the order. Anyway, you find out that there's an audience, and that this whole thing is being put on for the audience, and the audience is watching everything that this tire is doing from an extreme distance, such that they all are given binoculars.
Okay.
But what they aren't given is food. And you never find out who's staging this whole thing, but you do find out that the whole thing is being staged specifically for the audience until there isn't an audience anymore.
Gotcha.
And then everybody can go home and they can stop. But as long as there's somebody watching the movie, the characters in the movie have to continue to play it out, even if they don't particularly want to be playing it out anymore and they've gotten tired with the whole thing. I'm telling you, I can't possibly do this movie justice other than to say that I absolutely loved it. It was a treasure. I can't fathom having stumbled upon something that I would love more than Rubber through what the hell did I just watch? I want to watch Velocipaster now, just on the off chance that it's as good as Rubber.
Oh,
obviously, Velocipaster is going to be the week that Jurassic Park comes out. It's written in stone. Velocipaster, Jurassic Park, it's happening. But Rubber,
I mean, it received great reviews at Cannes apparently in 2010. So
it is. Do you like Monty Python at all?
Are you kidding me? I love Monty Python.
Just watch it. You've got it till the end of the month. You've got a week and a half. And maybe you can watch it, and next week we can have a little mini, real quick review of your thoughts on Rubber.
Yeah,
it is. You just have to. You don't realize how funny it is and how intentional it is right in the beginning. But once you realize it, it's like, oh my God, this is perfect. This is perfection. Gotcha. And it just absolutely is perfection.
And you said it's available on HBO Max?
HBO Max, free, end of the month.
I will look it up.
Yep.
How long is it?
122.
I might be able to knock it out.
1 hour and 22 minutes.
I think I can knock it out tonight.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's revisit this.
It's a quickie.
You have me curious.
Oh, it's so good.
I'm very pleased.
I'm happy to talk about Rubber again. So if you get the chance and we do it as a real quick review, I'm in.
Sure. I'm in. Absolutely. All right. Well, Paul,
yes.
I feel like this week's What the Hell Did I Just Watch is so different from the others that you go through. So
I know. Well, it's not, because it's certainly absurdist cinema, and it 100% fits, because what goes on in this thing is absolutely fucking bonkers, and the ending is just like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. This is where we're going to end it. I want a sequel. But there we are. C'est la vie.
Indeed. All right. Well, you can find out what kind of weirdness Paul has been watching week to week, so make sure you stop by so you can catch What the Hell Did I Just Watch. Yeah. And I will definitely be watching it, so we can revisit it next week briefly. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you as always, Paul, for bringing us cool stuff every week. It is
My
time
pleasure.
now for this week's real quick review, and I'm just going to get right to it. The movie was released this past week. It is called Men,
Yeah.
and this movie, Paul, I remember in the last few weeks running across the trailer every time I was at the theater, and being highly intrigued by the trailer.
Yeah.
And of course, it has some of our one of our favorite reel-to-reel talk actors. We have talked to Jessie Buckley quite a bit on this show for good reason. And let's just start by saying, let's add this to the list of roles that she has knocked out of the park. Jessie
my
Buckley,
God. Yeah.
I mean, indie movie darling, but I mean, come on, let's face it, she's fantastic.
I just want to watch her in everything.
She's
Like
great.
I'm trying to figure out how to get her into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I want her to be in the next iterations of Jurassic Parks that get made. That Tom Cruise isn't on the phone with Jessie Buckley right now and trying to get her into the next Mission Impossible is a crime against humanity.
Yeah.
These are all things that need to happen because I need Jessie Buckley in my life on top. And if The Lost Daughter didn't make me feel that way, which, by the way, it did, Men definitely would make me feel that way. And I'm sure whatever she has coming next is going to make me feel that way even more.
Well, it's a movie later this year called Women Talking, but I'm thinking of Ending Things, The Lost Daughter, and Men, all of which we will have reviewed in this show by the end of tonight. Literally her last three films. And I mean, there's on her filmography, she's got, let me see, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 films total.
Yeah.
She's done quite a bit of television. I didn't realize she was in Chernobyl. I'll need to catch that.
Oh, crud. I love Chernobyl. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. And, but yeah, no, I mean, here is an actor who is picking her spots and just bringing it every single time. And so we start this review of the movie Men with, I think there's, I don't want to put a framework to this conversation, Paul, unless you, of course, feed into it. But to me, this was at the very least, a look at two splendid actors, doing amazing work, and a movie that I don't think enough people are going to see for the amount of conversation it can generate.
Oh my God!
I mean, Paul, I kid you not, I was alone in this theater, alone. I don't know what the box office is. Let me look real quick.
I didn't look. I should have looked. I almost don't want to know.
Well, and it was released at the same time as Downton Abbey, so
it's not. They're not going for the same crowd.
Right.
You know, side note.
2,200 theaters. It debuted 3.3 million between U.S. and Canada.
That's not too bad. I bet its budget was probably only 6.
Sure. But again, it's just one of those movies that it hopefully will gain traction as it hits streaming and people will talk about it who have seen it and say, you got to watch this film. It's quite a work.
Yeah.
And, can we give enough credit to Rory Kinnear? Again, another person who lands in that category of hey, it's that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I mean, so first off, this is definitely a horror film. Okay.
Yes.
So, but you want to know what kind of horror movies Paul likes. This is the kind of horror movie that Paul, this movie was the scariest movie I've ever seen in a theater. You know, like I might have seen scarier movies at home, you know, Exorcist being on that list, whatever. I can't remember being this just absolutely scared on my mind and riveted for like a 15-minute period than I was in the not the last 15 minutes, but 15 minutes that preceded the last 15 minutes. Because the last 15 minutes, let's just get it. Let's just establish it. This is absolutely what the hell did I just watch fodder? If there ever was, what the hell did I just watch fodder for movies? This is it. I mean, A24 does it again. This movie, the final 15 minutes are just like completely bonkers.
Insane.
But but the 15 minutes before that are the whole movie's pretty bonkers, but like the 15, it's just like, it's absolutely riveting. It's just, I was just I was in shock. I didn't know what to, and it was so relentless and so visceral and so real. You know, it just felt so real that I was just like, oh my God, I can't even process the you know, what's going on here. And
Yeah.
I mean, you know, so we're not breaking any, you know, news there. That Rory Kinnear plays basically the village. I mean, like, so Jessie Buckley gets a farmhouse in a village as a Airbnb type of thing to get away after her husband has passed away in mysterious circumstances. The circumstance, they reveal the circumstances leading up to his death, and they are unpleasant as unpleasant could possibly be. So the mystery of his death becomes you know, really gripping in itself. But she ends up in this village that is populated by Rory Kinnear and Rory Kinnear, and it's really it's a big time mind f. You know, it's a big time like what is
going on?
Yeah, big time what is going on? And so I ask you, I'm curious, what was your, do you read into this metaphysical? Do you read into this psychological? Do you where do you fall on?
It was so many things. That's the thing. That see, this is the kind of horror movie I like. I take you back to the work of Jordan Peele.
Right.
Most of his films, his horror films, are they're in your mind first. You know, they get into your psyche first. And then that's what this movie does. Psychological, absolutely psychological horror.
Yeah, sure.
Body horror, metaphysical horror. That was the thing that was so intriguing about this movie, is that from the outset, it doesn't take long for us to enter the realm of discomfort as you witness the relationship, right? And then what's really cool, and I'm gonna kind of use a cooking term. So oftentimes when you're making something that has an acidic nature to it, you want to cut it with something to make it a little bit more palatable. And the way in which this movie uses the beauty of the Airbnb, as we'll call it, the village, cuts through and makes the tension sort of like, okay, where is this really? But then you get jolted by something. And it's not even jump scares. It's this sort of unseen, what's not on screen is what gets into your mind. And then something happens on screen that you're like, oh shit, like, yeah, okay, whoa. And then it calms down. And then it's this constant up and down of tension. So long answer to a short question. It was just so many different types of horror in this film that by the time you get to what would be classified as sort of the classic horror genre of things going on image-wise, you're exhausted. And you're defenseless at what's happening to you from the screen. And I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, no,
why I loved this movie so much.
Yeah. And I heard an interview with Alex Garland, the director and writer, and by the way, also made Ex Machina, amazing movie, Annihilation, fantastic movie. And he explained that intentionally, like, it's not supposed to be a mystery that Rory is playing everybody, all of the villagers, and that all of the villagers are men. But he intentionally left it open to interpretation because it's never brought up. It is never expressly raised as an issue, as a peculiarity. Like you never get the understanding of Harper, Jessie Buckley's character. You never get the idea of where is Harper's mind on the idea that everybody's the same. It's just something that is. And so he said, I never establish, is it in her mind? And not everybody's the same, but just where her mind is at the time is that all men are the same. And so this is her mind playing this, or is it a physical reality that, yes, all of these men are the same. And so, the mystery of why are they all the same, and she knows that they're all the same, but they're different enough, except for the kid who's creepy on his own planet.
Yeah.
She's just all, it's not enough to be like obvious, but too much to really be like not obvious. It's
Yeah.
perfect the way it layers in, and he
My-
did that on purpose, and I think that's great.
Right. My take on it is, and I'm going to be very careful here not to give too much. I really want people to see this movie. It broke my
Please.
heart as it ended, being in an empty theater. In my mind, in my view, this is her playing out every reaction that would possibly happen to her, given the circumstance of the incident.
Mm-hmm.
And the way in which we could spend an hour on a discussion on the impact of each of these male types that were displayed in this film, and how women encounter this kind of behavior, and it's just, the horror for me was how this woman, regardless of whether it was all in her mind or whatever the case might be, whatever the intent of the director was, is like, this is her manifestation of all of the stuff she's dealt with from the moment that the incident occurred.
Okay.
Because
cool. Yeah,
probably people have said these things to her.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's a wonderful study on, the people dealing with trauma and grief.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the one side, but on the other side, dealing with those who have no, I'm just going to be very blunt here, who have no fucking business commenting on whatever your life instances have been,
and prying and nosing into it, and it's
a phenomenal film.
Yeah, there are two things I want to bring up.
Sure.
Thing one, oh my god, the color palette.
Oh,
so every scene has its own color, and it's not like, oh well, there's little hints of it. It's every scene is completely washed in a very specific color, and it is so effective. I mean, this is an art direction that is just like, there is no ambiguity of where they're trying to go, what they're trying to communicate. When she's in the forest, it's not like, oh, well, here's some dark greens. It's all the exact same shade of green.
It's really disturbing. Yeah.
Bright, vivid green, and it's everywhere. When she's in her apartment with her husband, it's constantly orange. The curtains are always drawn, and it brings in this orange color, and so everybody's bathed in orange. The house is painted red inside, and it's not just like accent red. It's like everything is this blood red. Her one little sort of refuge room is a nice pastel, almost a pink, more, like a creamy pink type of thing. And it's very relaxed. I just loved the art direction on this. Yeah. I want it to be, I've never wanted a movie to be nominated for art direction more than this movie. It has to be nominated because of just how amazing the art direction plays into the movie.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to bring up is the fucking baptismal font. I mean,
so okay, go.
So
I'm glad you brought it up.
So I saw this movie Sunday night, and then I wanted to make sense of it, and I wanted to I wanted to give a rationale. And this was before I heard the interview with the director. I wanted to give a rationale for why is Kinnear everybody, and the baptismal font plays a huge role in the movie. I mean, it's omnipresent. It shows up where it shouldn't, right. And it has two really disturbing carvings on it. And the backside of the baptismal font is a precursor to other things that happen. And that's where I'm going. I am just going with there is an evil force at work in this village, and it is the baptismal font is the font of the evil.
Got it.
And that's where I'm going with it. And now am I right or am I wrong? The wonderful thing about this movie, and the director has said yes and no. You are right. You are wrong. I might have been. I obviously put importance on the baptismal font, but what importance? It's entirely up to you. Right. And that's the thing about this movie is that it is entirely up to the viewer of what importance they want to put, importance or non-importance they want to put on anything.
Right.
But everything's there for a reason.
Right.
So it's hard to not put importance on everything, you know? And so in my mind, I want to make this a demon movie. And I call it the demonic baptismal font. And that's where it comes from. So,
and it's cool. I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's the thing is I'm usually bugged by movies that directors make you figure it out for yourself, right? Okay. Not figure it out, but they allow you to interpret it. But I appreciated this so much about this film.
Yeah.
The other thing, you brought up the font. I'm glad you did, because it reminded me of a comment I wanted to make. And that is, there were so many things like that font, especially in the early part of the film, where it was only you, the viewer, that was really, really the one paying attention to the detail. She wasn't.
She did not at
all.
Yeah.
And so there's so many pieces of the film, and this is where it's like I was the word interactive. As I was thinking about ways to describe this film after the fact, I was like, there was an element of it that was interactive, because there were pieces of the movie that were only for you, the viewer, and that's where it got into your mind, like, what are you interpreting this as? And I love the way you're viewing it, because while I didn't think of it that way, I just thought of this as she's in a place looking for something that for her isn't there, because that's not, she's dealing with this event, and she's looking in all the places people might go to, whether it's a church or a bar or a this or a that. And there's these little elements that pop up that you're like, it's not going to happen there. Like, it's, I don't know if I'm describing it well, but that font for me represented several other points where you're like, I'm the one seeing this. I'm being shown this to create the disturbing sort of sense of things. And the last thing I'll say, and because I really appreciate all you brought to it, was what an effective use of music for tension. It's a common horror movie trope, but this was something at a whole nother level.
Totally different level. Bringing in the actors' voices into the score was just like, oh my God.
Yeah. I mean, the whole bridge sequence was
tunnel. Yeah.
The tunnel sequence. Yes.
Yeah.
It begins with her voice.
Yep.
But then there's this crescendo of music that occurs, and it's just like that I don't know, again,
and then they bring that back later in the film, like not in the tunnel, just in the score, and it's just like, oh my God, I'm so fucking scared right now. I'm so scared right now.
This movie is effective on so many levels. I really want people to see it.
I know.
I really do.
I do. I loved it so much. And I do want to say I loved it in spite of the fact that I did not like the last 10 seconds.
Oh, I know. I think I was so drained that it was like, okay, that was... Okay.
That's the problem is that there needs to be a something. I just felt like there needed to... It's a draining... This movie is an absolutely draining experience. Like I said, I was literally just... I went from 15 minutes of just nonstop guttural fear to 15 minutes of like, what the hell is going on here? Like, what's happening? What's going on?
Yeah.
Which is also emotionally draining for a completely separate reason.
Sure.
I went, and then there's a stinger that's added to the very end of the movie, like, so a coda, if you will.
Sure.
Without there actually being like a resolution. Like there's a coda without a resolution, and it's just did you write your own resolution? Did you like, because I didn't want it, like, as much as this movie invites you to write your own adventure, I felt like I did not want to write I wanted a resolution.
I needed it handed to me, and that's the thing is I wasn't. I will say this: when the movie ended, I didn't feel the disappointment in the ending that I felt after thinking about it, because what it does is it left me with the question: then what was the point? Which is totally unfair to this movie because there are so many great points, but in relation to story, you're left with this sort of.
Interesting. It's in relation to story, because I do want to say I didn't feel like what was the point. I felt like, well, but okay, there's not a lot of story here, but the story that that is here, I would have wanted a resolution to the story that was here, because I did feel like the resolution that it does give you explicitly is the point, because the two characters that are having a moment on the couch, I'm not even going to bring up who they are. The two characters that are having a moment on their couch, one of them expresses, this is why I'm here. This is what I am looking for.
Oh, you're okay. Got it.
And so that is a resolution.
Yes,
that character, that's the why.
Yeah, I'm talking about the very, very, very end.
I'm talking about the very, very, very end that I didn't like because it skips the what. We got the why. It skips the what, and I feel like for the very small, minute part of story that there was here, we needed something of a what to know that everything is resolved or taken care of.
Sure.
Everything is taken care of. And I don't know that Jessie took care of everything.
No, right. No, that I get what you're saying. I completely get. But yes, the couch part was very effective for me.
Right.
But it was the last part that was like
the last part because I didn't feel like but you said the last part left you bad because, well, what was the point? And I feel like the couch part gives you what was the point. The couch part gives you what was the point.
The reason I felt like that about the very, very last scene that we get is because now it's like, what's next for her? I know we're not going to know that, but it almost feels like she got something out of it, which is what you're describing. But I'm left with like, well, now what?
No, exactly.
Roller coaster.
That and that's my feeling as well.
Gotcha.
That is very much my feeling. That and it's just like I just needed like to know that I genuinely needed to know she was going to be okay,
right?
In spite of but
and
also, how could anybody be okay after everything she's experienced?
Exactly.
Like, there's no way she's okay.
Yeah, and maybe therein lies the effectiveness of the film in that it leaves you in a discomforted situation.
Yeah.
Even after it's over, Yeah. And so I'm excited to know what your rating was. People know by now. 5 tacos if you loved it. You can give it guac if you want. Paul, men, hit me.
I'm giving it the 5 and guac. I loved it. I really did love it. I loved it throughout. From start to finish. I was really frustrated. Like the last 15 minutes is almost a little too weird, but it's okay. The only thing I didn't like was the last 5 seconds, but I'm not gonna knock it because I didn't like the stinger that the coda. Just because I didn't like the coda, it's fine. I did love everything else going on though. It's so good. It's such a beautiful and well developed movie. I just hope people see it. Yep.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and pop that right back up because that was me. 5 tacos plus guac.
Yeah.
And we can count on one hand the times we've given a movie this high a score.
No.
This movie is one that will challenge you.
Yeah.
It will,
it's not for everybody.
It's not. But if you're willing to put yourself through it, it will put you through the grinder.
Yeah.
But if you look at it from just a filmmaking standpoint, it is an absolute winner. Of a movie, and I cannot say enough about Rory Kinnear and Jessie Buckley.
Yeah.
Give us more. So
more.
I want to see more from those two.
Yeah.
Paul, that was not a real quick review, but that's all right.
I knew it wasn't going to be. I had way too much to say about that.
We had time to talk about it.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of having time to talk about it, we are finally approaching. In fact, early release was last night for Top Gun Maverick.
Yeah.
I know you're looking forward to our episode next week when we will do a Tom Cruise retro.
We're going to do
and
a deep dive into Tom Cruise, a la Nick Cage, a la Liam Neeson.
Yeah.
Already this year, it's time to give Tom Cruise his due.
Yeah. In fact, early release is tonight. I was sorely tempted, but I was like, nope, I got a show to do with my buddy Paul.
Yeah.
So do you know yet when you're going to see it?
I don't, because I don't even know what my Memorial Day weekend plans are yet. My son's going out of town, and it's on I think Sunday, so like he doesn't want to really see this, so I think I'm just gonna put it off to Sunday or Monday.
Yeah.
But I don't know what plans are yet, so there's a lot of things going on. I'm gonna see it in IMAX because it has to be seen in IMAX. Absolutely. And I'm gonna we're gonna do Tom Cruise.
Absolutely. Tom Cruise retro. We'll talk about Top Gun Maverick. We will also do a revisit on Rubber. And I don't know about you, but are you a Bob's Burgers fan, Paul?
I am not. I've never seen the show. So
all right. I might just have to bring that one for a couple of minutes because
please do.
Jen hooked me up with Bob's Burgers a few years back, and I was like, oh God. I didn't want to like it because the character is voiced by the same guy who does Archer. And he makes no effort to differentiate the characters.
No.
So anyway, we'll throw that one as a real quick review. So I'm excited about next week's episode, Paul.
Cool. Awesome. Me too. I am. I mean, I actually watched Top Gun over the weekend in preparation. So nice. We're ready to go.
Indeed. All right. Well, we hope you're ready to go out there. Thank you for joining us this evening. We really do appreciate it. And we look forward to next time. Make sure you catch us, like I said, Facebook, Instagram, and also on YouTube. But more importantly than that, don't forget, you are awesome. You're amazing. And the world's a better place because you are in it. We'll see you next time on Real to